I'm looking for a step forward, and to a certain extent, a wiki is a sort of shared place where a community can sort of become a community of practice. But I don't think there's enough of us for that. And the wiki tends to have this sort of idea of being an encyclopedia, and encyclopedia means covers everything. But I thought, what if I started a repository on GitHub called, I'm suggesting, STEM Access. The name can easily be changed. And we use an issue tracker there just to regularize and record some of the stuff we've got here. And what we've had in this conversation, well, you know, the first time you first stay at a new sort of workplace, you know, everything, none of it makes sense. You know, everybody's talking to each other and you can't follow it. There's so much implicit knowledge that you don't have. And we share a lot of implicit knowledge, and we're also picking up implicit knowledge from us. But somebody who's coming in from outside or has got a limited background in this area would be overwhelmed. So one of the things that could use to be done is to take the transcript of this conversation and sort of say, well, what's the implicit knowledge in this transcript that would be helpful to record for other people? And a glossary of terms would be one example, so processing instructions, and the various variants of Pressbook and the book down. So how can I create a book without markup, that sort of thing. So, and I see that as a way of sort of doing something useful with this that goes beyond the 8 people here. As long as 3 people are willing to do that, it's a viable proposition, at least viable enough to be worth trying. So I'm willing to do that if 2 other people are willing to put their hands up to do something like that. That's 2. That's 3. Okay, so we've got the committee of 3, the troika, they call it in Russia. Anybody else is willing to join. The trio is JF, Arthur Ogawa, and Tani W. Well, so I'll email everybody, but I'm only expecting replies from those 3 unless you want to join in. And the idea is that the links we've got here, we can sort of organize a bit better. And it's just a sort of free-for-all, if you like, but it's an issue tracker, which makes it work a bit better. And I don't want to own it. Oh, are you asking a question, Kelly, or joining in?
I guess a bit of both, but given the experience that I have from the R community and how they're able to get followers and the inclusiveness and the safe feeling that you get for being like new users being able to post issues, I think largely comes from clear guidance on GitHub how to contribute to something. And I think that this project would be really well served by starting a new, they don't call it a repository, one level up from a repository in GitHub.
Organization.
Yes.
Organization.
And so that's what I would really recommend, is starting a new organization. And I love your name that you proposed, Jonathan. And then within that, we can have repositories with I think the end goal I see is in GitHub, you can host a website, and then we could eventually take and make a user community similar to like the blind math list, where people can ask questions, and you can do all of that through GitHub. But I would really like to see it in its own organization, just to kind of mimic some of the sense of community that I've gained from the R community. Thanks.
I second that.
I'm going to be a little bit reluctant, and I'll express the reluctance in the following form: that we don't know where Jaina will be in relationship to the Holman Prize, and none of us are blind or visually disabled, and we're not representative. So I feel as though we're not quite ready for that, but I think it's correct as an aspiration.
I think, though, that if you start it inside somebody's personal repository, then it's limiting from the get-go. Like,
oh, no, you can move it. You can take a repository. A repository has a wiki attached to it, a Git repository you can push to, and it has an issue tracker. You can move the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle, to somewhere else.
Yeah, I understand that, and I've done that. It's just based off of some of the training that I have taken recently on how to make a new community based on people that, when you have a limited set, that you should think about your end user and design the product from the get-go. And so if our product is to make information available to everybody, then it shouldn't be owned by one of us.
I'd also say there's a bunch of features you get if you have an organization, including a project board and all sorts of other nice little things that we can start to put to use gradually for an organization. And if I don't see any reason we can't call ourselves an open source organization and just share it, because we're sharing our content. All we have to do is put it under an open source license, whatever we're putting into the either issue tracker or markdown files, or however we're creating content. And then it should be relatively easy to manage and support.
I think that we agree about more than we disagree about, and I've got a certain sort of reluctance, because it's my weakness is starting something ambitious that's too ambitious, and so I've learned to sort of try and make small steps, try and make the smallest possible step, if you like, but keep the future open. In the end, if it's a project and you're part of that project and 5 or 6 other people are part of that project, and the project is owned by the people that participate in it, it's not what I think, and it's not what you think, it's what the consensus is. And I think that's the really important thing, is that by consensus, by understanding, by shared understanding, we find the way forward. So I think that I think the method is the really important thing. That's for me. But it's gone 7:30, and what I suggest is, well, I'm not going to suggest anything. I'm happy to go forward in this proposal in any way that's agreed by everybody else. And we can talk about it this more now if you want to. or we could talk about something else. So I'm in a sense relinquishing the chair so that my views are quieter.
Folks, I'd just like to say I was very impressed by what Kelly said, and I recognize that far beyond technical issues, just the ability to bring a community together, in other words, to be an organizer, is quite a skill. And I'm very much in admiration of people who can do that. So I just want to encourage all of us to bring out what we can in that domain, so we can figure out how to work together effectively. And I too don't know exactly what this is going to look like, so I'm open to whatever we can create together.
Thanks, Arthur. I think something that's key is how you said together, because if we're not going to do it together, then I think we should be adding our information to other resources that are already out there, like the websites that we link to today. Why aren't we contributing to those? Like, why is our idea to have a central repository for this information better than the individual ones that already exist? And so that's why I see the GitHub organization as being something that we're doing together and inclusive of other people that aren't currently represented here.
I'd like to make a suggestion that we make a decision we make now, every decision we have to make in order to go ahead for the next month. But decisions that need, make decisions as they're required, if you like. That's the approach. So we need a shared place where we can sort of share things, and that, the natural thing for that is a GitHub repository with associated issues and so forth. At this point, we don't need a separate organization. I'm happy to create a separate organization and keep it in the wings. We probably want to be a group of named individuals and have a sort of program that we're trying to do. I like what I think it was Arthur was saying, Kelly was saying was, well, before we go too far, we better check that we're not reinventing the wheel, and we better do everything we can to be in good terms with other people that already have produced fine and wonderful wheels. I'll stop.